Welcome to this week's episode of the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for this episode. Really quickly, before we begin our conversation, if you would like to support the podcast and hear more of these types of conversations, please go to convome.com/support. There you'll be able to buy me a proverbial coffee, but really the money goes towards everything that goes into producing the podcast and keeping it on the air. And I appreciate your support. And now on to my conversation. My guest this week is Gloria. Gloria runs the Etsy shop Get the Bag Biz, and also she has a website tied into that, getthebag.biz. And we're going to talk about not only what she's doing on Etsy, but also the grander mission of Get the Bag. Gloria, thank you so much for being my guest and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to join the conversation.
I'm really glad to have you. One of the reasons I love having these conversations is because one, we get to learn from each other, but also learning about how we can help each other and help the community. And with Get the Bag, you're doing some very unique and different things that not many Etsy sellers are doing. So can you tell us about Get the Bag, what the mission is, and how that ties into what you're doing on Etsy?
Absolutely. Yeah. So Get the Bag is a platform that leverages my 30 plus years experience in working in banking with, hundreds, if not thousands of small business owners, and then also working in venture capital and philanthropy and seeing the economic disparities that Black women specifically, which is also one of the fastest growing groups of people starting businesses, but are facing as it relates to being able to have enough funding, visibility, and resources to grow our business without having a lot of stress, right? So
Right.
it is a way of taking all of the information and lessons learned and providing content, information, and resources, but also the ability to get some additional exposure for these business owners in the marketplace to help them to grow their business. So it started out as a book concept. So I was going to package all of the information and knowledge I had about getting money to start and grow your business and write a book, which that's still on the radar.
In the
But I
works.
thought it's a more fun and engaging way to get people, who are already busy. Many times these are side hustles, to have an interest in maybe the business finance side of things, or being willing to think about taking on additional money to grow their business, to sell products through e-commerce, right? And what's unique about our approach to Etsy and e-commerce is that we curate and look for amazing, gorgeous, beautiful, social impact focused Black women-owned brands. For the most part, we have some Latinx brands featured as well too, and put them into themed gift boxes that we hope through the visibility on Etsy, on our website, and in other means will get other people to be excited about and interested in the brands. And so some of the places that I curate and look for the brands to be featured in the boxes is Etsy, because one of the things that we were having this conversation that we love about Etsy is that you can always find kind of cool, unique, interesting brands, right? And that are supporting small business owners. I'm a big believer in local and small business owners as well too, and then presenting them to all of the consumers that go to Etsy to find just that type of business. But in addition to the being able to enjoy delicious beverages, snacks, office products, and books from that we curate in our boxes, you can also benefit from content that we provide offline from Etsy. We have resources on our website, getthebag.biz, which includes a business grant calendar, which is updated weekly and includes the links and information to directly apply for business grants. And you can even subscribe to it, so you'll never miss one of the opportunities that we post. It includes some educational content about, how to think about how to increase your odds of success for securing a grant. And we're planning in 2023 to launch a new service, which is a resource directory for Black women entrepreneurs that's focused on helping you to identify support resources that you may not know exist in your community, or that may not be in your community, but you can access because they provide services to women, all over the country virtually. So we're really excited about that. And so our goal is to power up and promote Black women entrepreneurs through access to education, training, funding, and visibility in the marketplace.
How can brands collaborate with Get the Bag in order to be part of, like the subscription box so they get the exposure?
Yeah, so thank you for asking that question. I worked with 2 interns this past spring and winter to help me to build out a vendor database so that I could more, always have, new and exciting options. Because I know, we're as Black women, we're starting these businesses every day, right? There's something new and fun on the horizon, but I don't necessarily have the bandwidth to know kind of everything that's out there. So we created a vendor database, and I have a form, which you can find the form. I should have it on my website. I don't. But if you email me at gloria.ware@getthebag.biz, I can send you a form that you complete. It gives information about our brand values and the types of products and services that we're looking for. Okay. It'll ask you questions about kind of your brand category, if you offer, wholesale pricing, and if you have like a social impact. You don't necessarily have to, but if there's a social impact focus to what you're doing. And then we review it internally. And then if it meets our criteria, again, which is just kind of amazing, fun, high quality products for our partners that will fit into a box, it goes into our vendor database. But even if not, like, we have other plans for the types of things we want to do. So it doesn't hurt if you have a service or a downloadable template or something like that you feel would be great for other business owners or professionals to have. Feel free to go ahead and complete that partner request form. Okay. But I can provide it. I don't know how you get information out of Joe, but I can provide a link to it. It's also on our link in bio on our Instagram page. Get the Bag Boss.
Yes, I will have a link. I will have links to your website, your Etsy shop, as well as your social media and Instagram, so folks can find it there. And also I can put direct links in the show notes for this episode. And for anyone who grabbed Gloria's email address, just as a note, it's gloria.ware, WARE, just to make sure you don't you get the spelling right, and your email gets to her at getthebag.biz. Gloria, what has been your experience with running a subscription service on the Etsy platform, and have you tried to run it outside of Etsy also, and what has that experience been like?
Yeah, I would say when I first started with Etsy, it was really a backup because I was having problems connecting my Google domain to my website, my new website. But I had orders and I had boxes that I needed to get out. And so as being an Etsy shopper myself, I thought, oh, wait, great. Etsy can save the day. It can serve as that kind of backup website. So I don't think, and also too, because I launched right at the beginning of the pandemic, I didn't start out as a subscription box business, even though that was my goal. I just started out as a gifting business because who knew, like, people were losing their jobs, people were going to go to work. I didn't know what impact that was going to have on people's ability to buy, something that was like a discretionary purchase. And so really started out as a gifting brand, not knowing what was going to happen. But it turned out to be a benefit in a sense, in that because people weren't able to see one another or visit one another or like personally take someone out on their birthday or hand them a birthday gift, people were really, and they miss one another. And then there were, sadly tragedies.
Yeah.
They were looking for unique gifts. And, because of everything that happened in 2020, particularly with Black people, right? People were looking to support Black owned businesses, and they were looking to reach out and touch a loved one through and give them like a unique experience, because our boxes are all branded boxes, right? So we use branded mailer boxes, and so that when they get the box, it's like, oh wow, what is this? Kind of bright, colorful box that's on my doorstep. So that we started out as just purely gifting, and then as I realized the world was not going to end. And things were starting to settle a little bit more. 2020, midsummer of 2021 is when I started trying to do subscription in addition to gifting on Etsy. And it hasn't really, I haven't had not one person get subscribe through Etsy.
Oh.
I don't think Etsy is a platform for subscription boxes, primarily for gifting or your own personal needs. But like I said, I do get business gift. I have had orders from businesses that were looking, they had a conscious person on their team that was, not necessarily interested in going to Amazon and looking for products, but they were looking for values aligned vendors. So from that perspective, I have been able to attract the attention of nonprofits and conscious social impact focused buyers on Etsy, whereas I don't think they would have gone. They were specifically going to Etsy to find that, right? And so that's been my experience on the subscription side. I've had other kind of experiences and learnings just in terms of like using the platform in general.
What have been some of the more significant learnings in general from using the platform?
I would say, and when I say learnings, I'm like still learning.
Yeah. Oh, all of us.
Right?
Yes.
Because I do also have a website, right? So I'm splitting my time between the Etsy and then focusing on my website and then other content. My goal is to transition like more of my sales to my website, right? So that I don't have to pay as much in fees. But I would say the things that I've had to really tweak and adjust, and I'm still working on, is pricing to accommodate for the costs incurred.
Yeah.
Whether it's advertising or whether it's the cut that Etsy takes, and then advertising within Etsy, and then advertising outside of Etsy, like which is costs even more. So having to, and then just understanding, like really paying attention to the reporting, that's super important. And also descriptions.
Yeah.
Like, right.
Yeah.
These are all things I wish that I had. Like there was really, I guess there's plenty of like YouTube thing.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Yeah, but that gets overwhelming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could definitely benefit from like an Etsy course like that breaks down all of those things.
All the steps,
I think there's potential, but there's like anything, there's a system, and I haven't quite figured the system out. But I know that just product descriptions are underrated. And I think Etsy tries to tell you, like, right, hey, look, product, but there's definitely like a way of doing these product descriptions. So for me, keeping track with all the product descriptions for the different products that I have. Let's see. Oh, the other thing, one of the things I do love about Etsy is the fact that they ask for reviews, right?
Yes.
And that they refuse, if you're doing, your reviews are prominently displayed. So that's served as, for me, like a proof of concept. Whereas when I was just getting started, I have like a public facing platform through Etsy that kind of promotes my 5-star ratings. And then I think that in turn, the more 5-star ratings you get, the more people feel comfortable buying from your brand.
Yes. And also the higher you show up in search too.
Oh, okay.
Yes. It's one of the search determinators of, I don't even know if that's a word, but yes, they've said that it helps.
Okay. Yeah. So I work really hard to get and I really enjoy reading the reviews.
Oh yeah, of course.
Some people, it's like, wow, really? Like, okay, I didn't know it had that kind of impact.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that people don't necessarily think about with Etsy is that because a lot of my sales are gifts, there's a gift message that typically accompanies it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You learn a lot about why people are buying your product and
Oh, yes.
who they're buying it for. Like, right? So for me, I'm very clear about, hey, these are Black women owned brands,
Mm-hmm.
support Black owned brands. And then I'll notice, because they might tell you a little bit about, oh, this is for, my friend and she's a community organizer and she works really hard. And I know
Mm-hmm.
she would just love this because she's really into buy Black, like, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, it gives you some insights in terms of like the type of people. I wish I could have a little bit more information on like who the purchasers are, like what their data is, but because they're not buying it for themselves for the most part. They're buying
Yeah.
it for others. I have a good idea as to like what others why they felt like this product was going to be something that their friend
That the
or
friend would
their
appreciate.
coworker would like.
Yeah. Yeah. Gloria, one of the things that you do that I find is really valuable is over on getthebag.biz, the information that you provide, just based on your background in the financial industry. And as Etsy sellers, a lot of times we bootstrap what we do on Etsy. It
Yeah.
either starts off as a hobby, and from our earnings from what we self fund, we put back into the business and help grow it that way. But there comes a time where one might want to scale, and
Yeah.
you have a particular knowledge about that and ways that we can grow our businesses beyond the bootstrapping stage. Can you share information with us about how we can go about scaling? What resources are available to us? Because I think most people think about Etsy sellers as kitchen table entrepreneurs,
Yes.
but there is so much potential. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the issues is funding and finding the funding, and how do I grow from my kitchen table? Can you talk to us based on what about what the options are and how we can go about expanding?
Yes. So I think it all starts with you and
Mm.
your vision. Like, right, one of the things we did at the beginning of the year was we had a manifest your business vision board. A business vision boarding workshop, right? Which is really like gaining control, right? You've got right now you have your Etsy, you have that ping, right, which kind of like, oh, controls like what you're about to do.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But you getting in front of that and saying, what do I want for this business? Where do I want it to go?
Yeah.
And being very clear on like how much sales or revenue do I want to generate? Or how much money do I want it to make for me after all of my expenses?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a lot of times we don't always ask those specific questions. We might say, yes, I want it to grow, but what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
You want you want more people buying from you, like, right? Do you want it to grow at all costs where you're not really making any money at the end of the day?
Mm-hmm.
And some people do that. A lot of tech startups, that's what they do, right?
Yeah.
Until they get to a certain point. And so there's like a very specific reason they grow that way. But for most of us, I don't think we're necessarily trying to become the next trying to think of like a Black business partake brands, right? That's a cookie. They sell gluten-free cookies.
Okay.
Um, Black owned. But so it's like, yeah, I think we need to say, look, I want to, well, what if this doesn't have to be like a side hustle for me? What could it be?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then what do I need it to do for me in order to get to that point? Like, right. So wow, my sales are really increasing. I'm reading the comments. People are saying that they can't find anything like this. And this is what seems to be unique about it. How many more people are there out there like that maybe not be Etsy shoppers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I might be able to reach? Like, do I think that I can actually generate a 6-figure after. I'm talking about like six figures, like in your personal checking account after all your business expenses
Right.
from this business, right? So it just starts by asking yourself those questions, like, okay, I think so. Now, what would it take to actually get there? Like,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there another platform outside of Etsy that, I mean, is there something else I could be doing to like ramp up my marketing outside of Etsy? Is there another? I don't know how many people are familiar with Fair, which is a site
Oh
for
yeah.
wholesalers, but I get a
Yes.
lot. I know there are some Etsy sellers on wholesale because I buy product from them,
Yes.
which is it's amazing, by the
Yeah.
way.
We've
It makes it
talked
so
about fair on
yeah,
the podcast.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So I would say a lot of the brands that I've been using since 2020, they have migrated, and I don't know all the ins and outs of Fair. I just know Fair from a perspective as a buyer, and it's amazing. Like right,
Mm.
because I can search for Black owned. It's a little hard. It's a little hard, but I know how to find them. I can search for not on Amazon. I can see the reviews. They make it super easy,
Yeah.
right? But anyway, so thinking about, is Etsy the only game in town? Is there something, another platform maybe I need to be thinking about being on? Like you and I were having a conversation about, hey, maybe I need to be thinking about Cratejoy since that's for subscription by
Yes.
businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So it really starts with you asking yourself pointed questions and writing them down on a piece of paper and not just having them in your head.
Mm.
So we were talking about how I despise business plans, but they're really important.
Yes.
I just don't like the way that they're presented and to small business owners because I think they're kind of a pain, but they don't have to be. But it's important because it's your guiding document for helping you to walk through that question of how do I scale? Okay, what does scaling mean for you? That might mean, so for some people it might mean like I want to go global. For other people it might mean that I want to be able to have this be my primary business and I don't work, right? Or I'm leveling up my business income significantly. So I think that's the first question, is being clear about what that means for you, then being clear about your numbers. So that's so important because everything is tied to, like, you got to put money out, or if you're able to give free services or resources, more power to you. And there are ways of doing that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it still is about, like, okay, it comes to numbers and counting and forecasting and tracking, which is a pain. And as a banker, I was a banker, like I used to be the main one, but it's like for me on this side, it is a pain. The biggest thing that's helped me is having a really good accountant to set up, really good systems for me on QuickBooks and to give me like coaching about, am I using it right? What are the reports telling me? I mean, I kind of know
Yeah.
what the reports are telling me because I was a former banker, but
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we always kind of underestimate, or we don't have a really good account. We have an account, but it's not the one we need. So once you have, like, in your mind an idea as to what you want the business to do for you, I like a lot of things. I am a big believer in the law of attraction and thinking your way to something positive or thinking your way to something negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the energy goes in the direction of your mindset. So once you start doing that, you'll be amazed at like how things start coming your way. Ideas, you start seeing opportunities, you start having people come your way because you're more present to, like, oh, this is going to get me to that $1 million business goal that I have.
Yeah.
So then it's having the right team, which is a great accountant, and then starting to build a team of other business owners that are successful and that are open and willing to share with you. So maybe having some mentors
Mm.
who can coach you
Yes.
along the way, because being a business owner is not a pulling it up by your own bootstraps, despite what people try to tell us. It's a team sport, and people that are successful, they are having worked with these business owners, they're asking everybody for help. Like, right?
Yeah.
They're turning over every rock trying to get any kind of piece of free advice or hookup or whatever, even when they have money for help. And sometimes we don't want to do that, right? Because we think it's supposed to be just like us doing all this hard work, but that is not how the game is played, right? So having a good team of like people that have been there, done that, listening to podcasts like yours, that's a great way for you maybe to initially get connected to or meet or figure out, like, would you vibe with somebody and maybe they might be willing
Yeah.
to talk to you, knowing your numbers, having the right accountant or bookkeeper to help you with that. And then, starting to work your plan and then building relationships. Because at some point in time, you are going to need money.
Yeah.
Even when your business is crushing it, you have
Mm.
a $10 million business, you're going to need money, but just you're going to need it for different reasons, right? So
Yeah.
starting on your team before you even need money, it should be people that provide funding, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that community banks and credit unions, I would say, for women and women of color and people of color, those are probably like the friendliest places just to start introducing yourselves, letting them know who you are, what you're doing, letting them kind of see you in your journey. You struggled, and then get over the hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I would say, well, before you even think about needing them, asking for money, start building those relationships with potential business support like women's business centers. I'm a big advocate of women business centers, which mostly every medium to large community has a women's business center, which is sponsored by the SBA. They connect other women business owners and have a lot of free resources, free legal services. I mean, they're all a little different, but that should be part of your team. And they're also connected to funders.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking about just making sure that the community knows what you are and what you're doing, and you tell everybody, which is, I know sometimes can be a little uncomfortable, but if you're thinking about one day doing a crowdfunding campaign, you're going to need that community.
Yeah.
So,
Gloria, I have a product idea for you just from
okay,
what you were
okay,
sharing. And I don't know how much effort this will take, but
okay. I'm open.
one of the hardest things is, at least for me, I know I've tried this in the past and it
Uh-huh.
was tedious, it was difficult, it was
Yeah.
boring. Coming up with a business plan, which I
Yeah.
know in order to secure funding to
Yeah.
grow, a lot of banks and lenders will ask for those. And as you were talking, I was thinking, oh my goodness, I wish she would just create a fill in the blanks business form template
Okay, but
where
okay, I have a hack for you,
you
right?
do.
Until I can get the time to do that, which I do want to work on that, right?
Yeah.
The hack is, and they need to be paying me. I'm working on that. So Intuit. So if anybody uses QuickBooks,
Oh,
that's
right, right, right.
that's owned by a company called Intuit, which
Uh
also
huh.
earns TurboTax and a bunch of other. They just bought Mailchimp
Yeah.
last year. They have the best, to me, the easiest, best, most regular person friendly business planning template. Is called Live Plan.
LIVE.
Yes, plan. I think it's all one word.
Okay.
It's like $19 a month. And it connects to QuickBooks because they're cousins.
Oh.
And I love Live Plan because it asks you questions. There's
Hmm.
like sections. There's like a section for your marketing. There's a section for like your operations. And then there's a there's like the financial projections kind of
Hmm.
section, which is just, I would say, if you're new to doing financial projections, I would do it with either a business support organization that does those, or an accountant. Now, not all accountants do financial projections. Okay. Uh,
Mm.
a lot of accountants, they just focus on taxes and keeping your books. So you need to find that type of accountant that will help you to work on your financial projections. Because the other good thing about Life Plan is you can share it with your accountant.
Okay.
Like you can like, hey, okay, let me see your business plan. Okay, well, what about this? What about that? Okay, hey, let me walk you through this thing here on your financial projections. This is what this means. And really, for your financial projections, like if the only thing you do is just break down the top part of like, okay, how much in sales do I think I can make January, February, March, April, May, like monthly,
Uh huh.
right? And then in each product category,
Hmm.
even if you just start with that, like, right? A lot of us don't even have that.
Yep.
And then it's like, it will total up the dollar amount, and you can kind of tinker. Oh, wow. Okay. So if I sold X amount each month, that's that could be $500,000 a year. Okay. And then you write down like your expenses associated with
Yeah.
selling those, right? Oh wow, I would. Okay, even after I account for my expenses, that it's nothing like seeing it on paper.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's made the thing about QuickBooks and those their products. They try to make it really easy for the average person to use. It's like TurboTax.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
you're right. They do.
right. They really go bend over backwards because they do a lot of customer discovery. The customer should also be a big part of your team, right? So you should be all over your customers, asking them questions. What did they like? How did they find you? What did they want? Right. So that's another
Mhm.
part of your team because that's your biggest fundraiser right there is customers. But anyway,
Mhm.
Intuit does a really good job of like customer focus groups, asking them questions. They're starting to use artificial intelligence and machine learning and making it so easy for you to do things. And I think they've taken that same concept and applied it to Live Plan. So
Okay.
the good thing about that I just discovered about Live Plan is you can connect it to your QuickBooks account. So like you can do like a month to by month, like you. So you said, okay, for first quarter, I'm going to do $10,000 in sales, and then kind of like I think my expenses will be $5,000. Then you can actually connect it, and then it'll tell you like, well, wow, you actually did 20,000 in sales. Like it gives you like a
Mm.
running budget versus actual,
Mm.
so you can month by month, and it just like you just press a button and it just does it automatically. It just pulls in your numbers from QuickBooks. But to me, and I've referred other people to Live Plan, and they've been like, "Oh my God, this is like a blessing."
Okay.
So that's the hack until
Okay.
you get the bag and like work on
Until
our
you come out with your product.
exactly. Now, right before our podcast, I was listening to this. Are you familiar with that podcast, "How I Built This" by Guy Raz?
No.
Oh, it's so good. He asked founders about like their kind of like their founder story,
Oh, okay.
and he was talking to this one Latina who has she started out with a media company and then sold it, and now she had created this platform called Sumo. It's an app called Sumo, and it's targeted towards the Latinx community,
Okay.
but like English speaking, like Latinx, which most of the ones in this country they speak English.
Mhm.
They're English speaking, but they're still like their culture, they're Latinos or Latinos.
Mhm. Mhm.
And um oh gosh, I have to find it. But I was listening to what she's building over there, and I feel like I don't know if she has this on the business side, but like kind of what she's doing, I'm like I would love to kind of take that uh culturally appropriate like version of creating these financial products, tools and services that people will actually enjoy using or want to use.
That's such an interesting concept. Do you remember the name of her?
I'm looking for it. I'm looking for
Okay.
it right now. I saw it popped up in my LinkedIn. But I'm like, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out.
Okay, cool.
So another one. So on my Instagram, I do. I'm getting back into doing my IG lives. I kind of got out of it this year, but on my Instagram, I will do an IG live, usually about kind of like something new that I think is going to help business owners, or we might talk about getting grants or whatever.
Mhm.
So yesterday I did one on artificial intelligence, and it was just there's this new. It's new-ish tool called
Yeah.
Chatbot GPT.
I've been seeing that pop up all over. Like did it just launch? Why is it
Well, I think
everywhere?
it's been around December 2nd is when all of a sudden something happened. Like they
So,
must have done something because
yeah,
every single business article was
is
about
talking about
chatbot
it.
GPT.
Yes, I know something happened within the last couple of weeks and all of a sudden everybody is all about
Yeah.
Chat GPT.
So we were talking. I had my son he's kind of like he's a techie too, but he's also
Mhm.
creative. And then another lady, she's a coder, she's a software developer, but she also teaches for Georgia Tech. She's a sister. We were just talking about like, wow, how could something like a chatbot hack be the hack? What's the shortcut to help you, like to even answer some of the questions that might be on the business plan? Like, right? So the biggest, I would say the simplest explanation that I can share for like what is chatbot GPT, instead of going to Google and typing in like, a question, or usually you type in a keyword. Sometimes you type in a full question and then you just get like links to different articles. Chatbot GTP, it gives you the answers. So there's people that are like, okay, say if you're like, you make cookies and you sell them on Etsy, right? But then you're like, you know what? I want to like give people like really cool, and they're gluten-free cookies, right? I want to create content to keep people engaged in my community around like the gluten-free recipes and gluten-free lifestyle. Instead of you actually writing creating you can just go to chatbot GTP and it'll give you like the recipe, or it'll give you like a lesson plan.
So what's left for the human to do?
Well, that's what we were talking about. We were like, oh, in a way, this is good. Like, right? Because, wow, this could change the game. Or you say, for example, packing those boxes, like, right? She was Nicole, that's her name. She was like, there's like a robot that costs like $20,000 and you could kind of program it and it can like pack the boxes for you. Right. I mean, that's kind of where we're going with it. Even so 20,000, that's like cheaper than a car. And that's within the reach of a small business owner. But we were also talking about it conversely from the perspective of, we need to know about this and be engaged with it, because otherwise we are going to be on the menu for this, right? So we need to know about it so that we can be familiar with it. And then if there's like needs to be any regulations or laws, or then there will be societal implications, we can advocate, because I'm a big believer in business owners advocating for themselves and society and their businesses, having a voice. As opposed to large corporations, which tend to have the voice with the politicians. Small business owners at the local level, you have a congressperson, you have a senator, you have a county commissioner, saying like, no, we don't want this, or it needs to have these controls in it. But on the opposite side of it, these are the types of tools, like technology is another team member, right? How can you leverage technology to take away from the need for you to raise as much money, which is hard, particularly for founders of color, and actually, like, right? How could I, to your point about to that business plan, like, what if I would type into chatbot GPT?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Hey, what a business plan template look? Because what they do is they just go back through and like Google goes through and it scrapes the entire internet for all of the information. And then it takes what they've learned from that information and then it gives it back to you, not as links, but like in a conversational way.
Right. So it's digestible. It's not
just
stats thrown at you.
Exactly. And so it's right now, there's still a lot of stuff that's incorrect.
Oh, okay. Is it free?
You can't totally trust because it's new. Right now, they're just trying to get people to feed it. Like it gets fed information, which is problematic if they're taking information across the internet, and we know what that looks like. It's a very bad place. And then they're supposed to be filtering out like racist, sexist, pornographic type content, but sometimes the sexism and racism comes through in more subtle ways. And also it depends on who's feeding it. There are people that are intentionally feeding it that kind of information, which is all the more reason that we need to be present and active in these spaces, because there are going to be some situations in which your business might be threatened, right? So I would say maybe in 2010, 2000, we could afford to just have a business and run it the way that we've always run it. But in 2023 and beyond, with the pace of change, we really need to like stay on top of technology and figure out how can we be using technology to be smarter and wiser about how we're putting resources into our business and how the other thing, Tanya, you said you talked to Tanya.
Yeah.
She told me today that I think she must have asked it a question, because my call to action for everybody was to like set up an account and start playing around with it.
Is it free to use?
Yes, it is free to use right now. Yeah. But she said you could ask it a question about, hey, what are the best, cutest, like hypoallergenic earrings that I could find to support me because I have allergies, right? You can ask it that kind of question. And then it goes through and it scrapes the net for like e-commerce businesses, right? So you're like, well, how do I make sure that my business shows up in that result?
I was just about to say how, yes. So do we have control over that?
I don't know. It's all new, right? We need to go in there and figure this all out. That was what So my thing on the podcast, on my IG live, I was like, look, I don't know. I haven't even played around with. My son did. He asked it a coding question.
Oh.
I was like, I don't know all there is to know about it, but I know we need to be here. We cannot afford to be ignorant of what's happening here. Like from number one, a money making perspective. Number two, it's going to have an impact on us if the wrong people get their hands on it. And it actually already, artificial intelligence is already having an impact on people in the justice system, criminal justice system. They're using it for sentencing. Technology, think about it.
Technology. Actually, that ties into what I was going to ask to wrap up. For 2023, what your predictions are and advice for sellers going forward. I kind of feel like you've already gotten into that.
But I have, because I told you about my personal situation. So I've just been trying to make it through the year, right? Through this season. But I have predictions. Oh, I think I should have some. But let me see. Right off the bat, money. People are just very uncertain about their money.
Yes.
Right, because it's like, well, are we? Is there going to? At first, it was like, are we going into an inflationary period? I don't know. And then it's like, yes, absolutely. And then it's like, well, maybe inflation is easing. I don't know. But then it's like a lot of people had money, in crypto, right? So some people lost money from that, or they're not feeling as wealthy. And then companies are laying people, certain kinds of jobs off. So I would say consumers are and even this season, right? It's been a slower season for me on the get the bag box side. People are being more discerning about how they're spending their money because there's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
So I would say for us as business owners, as e-commerce entrepreneurs, we really need to think about our value. The value that this goes back to knowing your customers and being creative and rethinking kind of like maybe our products or product selection or maybe adding a service to it. So my prediction is that there will continue to be economic uncertainty and maybe even some challenges. So depending on who your customer is, you want to make sure you're prepared for that. The other one is going to be huge shifts with Generation Z really coming into the forefront as young adults and spending power. Very different, right? In terms of their expectations of language that you use, very sensitive to like certain words.
Yeah.
That like, hey, we've probably been using our whole life. But if that's your customer segment, you really want to maybe do some focus groups or talk to Gen Z and just kind of like, hey, have them read your website, have them read your content. Like, is there anything in here that might be like offensive or a turnoff? Like, right? Because just very like if you're, Gen X or even, maybe I think maybe millennials might understand a little bit more, but things have changed a lot. Gender, like, okay, yes, we sell women's clothing. And you might have some people that normally, you might think of as a man, like want to buy those clothes too, right? Or just like there's makeup, like more men are getting into skincare. So
yeah,
hey, if that's been your women or women that people that identify as women, if they've been like your major consumers, but it's like no, men are really into their skincare routine too, but we just have these stereotypes about them. Maybe that's a new product line extension. So I would just say getting really smart about, and then also sustainability. People are making decisions about your packaging. They're judging you by your packaging. They're judging you by like, is this BPA free? Like, I know I'm very particular because I'm a cancer survivor.
Oh.
So I read the labels, and I'm also a green business. So even more companies are starting to ask questions about like your sustainability. Like, okay, well, what's your green? How green are you? What kind of green practices do you have?
Yeah.
And so, like,
I heard a
it's
lot of
starting to
that
start
in
to be,
2022, the whole eco-consciousness of
yes.
e-commerce.
So I think I know that's going to be, and you might have heard the term ESG. That's environmental safety and governance.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a, even like, so if you sell products to like a nonprofit or to like the government, they might ask you about your supplier diversity. Like, hey, well, do you support other local or black or brown or Asian companies? Or they might ask you about your green policies, or they might ask you about your social impact. So I would say the three: economic uncertainty, plan for it, think about, new ways of doing things, the green, more sustainability impact consumer. If you have Gen Z, you need to really do your homework and be asking questions and some things you may not necessarily personally agree with, but if you're trying to make this money, like, it's
Yeah.
something that you need to, like, just with every segment, you need to know your segment and cater
Yeah.
to their needs. And technology, right? This artificial intelligence, that's not going to go away.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to be really familiarizing with yourself with it so that you don't get disrupted because you were caught off guard, or that you can like figure out how to significantly scale your business now that you have this. You don't have to buy this expertise, maybe, or maybe you don't have to pay for as many hours of it because you can go in to talking to a branding company or an attorney or whatever. I mean, you still feel like you definitely need attorneys, right? Nothing's going to replace them, at least not this early. But you already have like some information, and so maybe you don't have to spend as much time and hours on it because you now have these tools that are making it a lot easier. Or if you're struggling and you don't have a virtual assist because you don't have a virtual assistant, it is going to evolve to the point that it could become a virtual assistant.
Right. Right. I tell you, it's exciting and scary at the
It
same time
is.
when I
I mean,
think about
it
it. I'm
really
like, oh
is.
my goodness, like
It
what
really
the
is.
possibilities are
Yeah, I feel like a lot
mind
of it's
boggling.
scary. And I think about my grandmother, right? We'll have two. Have one that just celebrated her 100th birthday,
Oh wow.
November 10th. We had like a big blast for her. And then I think about
Nice.
the one that just passed, who was 97. But I think about, wow, this is how they felt when, could you imagine all the new things that they saw,
Yes.
right? When these new, like, to us, it's like, oh, well, this is
Yeah,
just normal.
computers and TV and all that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
How air conditioning, like, right, how they they were, if you want to live, like, you just have to go through it.
Yeah.
And right now, as we become older, we're just, in technology is changing and moving even fast and has
Mhm.
even more, you know, consequences. We just have to live through it, but we don't want to get stuck behind. We don't want to get
Yeah.
caught caught up. Yeah.
I like that. I think that's a great take home message is we have to live through it, but we don't want to get stuck or left behind.
Exactly, exactly. And to me, I just feel like, because I do, having been like, I am a positive thinker. I do think positively, but
Mhm.
having seen the things that I've seen, I do have a lot of skepticism about stuff, and I do have a lot
Mhm.
of concerns about how it's going to be used for bad, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times it is.
Yeah.
But I think if we can get ahead of it, right? How can we use it for good, right? How can we
Mm.
just not like, oh wow, oh well, there, can't wait to see like what bad things they're going to do with it. Like,
Mhm.
no, let's stay ahead of it. Let's get on time and let's figure out like how we can like change the world with it, or at least counter, like be ready for when whatever they're going to do like happens, or at least we're ready. We've been ideating, we've been
Mhm.
working on some positive solutions, we've been educating others, so like that we have a community to help push back
Yeah.
on the bad things and help promote the good things.
I like that, Gloria. What's the best way folks can connect with you if they want to stay in touch, if they want to find you, if they have more questions for you?
Yeah, so I would say there's three platforms that I use a lot.
Okay.
So definitely, go to the website and sign up for our newsletter,
Okay.
which I'm going to get. I promise I'm going to. Poor newsletter is kind of like not done what it was supposed to do this past year just because of personal situations. But definitely, I have a lot of great content that I put in, including the newsletter, and I'm going to be working on that. The one for the year end tomorrow. IG, I'm going to be doing more IG lives.
Okay.
And so that's Get the Bag Boss.
Okay.
On IG, and then I have a LinkedIn page, which is like LinkedIn is my jam. And so I have Get the Bag LLC LinkedIn company page. So that's probably where I'm more consistent in sharing information, because it makes it so easy for me to share information. And maybe I'll do some like LinkedIn. LinkedIn has an audio, kind of like a Clubhouse type feature now.
Oh yeah.
So I might do some things, and I'm thinking about doing like a LinkedIn community, private community, Get the Bag community on LinkedIn.
Oh, I didn't know that they had those.
Yeah, I just learned. Okay, so get your LinkedIn company page, because even if you sell products to like you say beauty products, right, or any kind of product, there's people on LinkedIn. Whether they're in business, they have a business, they're professionals, but they also have needs to look cute.
They're actually shopping on LinkedIn.
It's more of like you building your thought leadership and sharing information about your company.
Oh,
like everywhere, IG has a purpose, TikTok has a purpose, Twitter. So you have a different brand voice that you bring to each audience. LinkedIn is more about maybe authority, brand authority, and it's like these are your messaging might be more business related, like the business of beauty, or like back to the hypoallergenic earring thing, like yes, more consumers are really thinking about materials used, like and so I primarily, most of my content on Forget the Bag is around funding, and occasionally I'll put some stuff on there about the brand. I'll feature the brands or show a picture of like our quarterly subscriber box for the quarter. But it's just kind of a different, but that's where you're going to find reporters, PR people. Right. And then there's LinkedIn ad. There's a lot. It's underrated. LinkedIn company, and it's free.
I keep hearing that. Yes.
Yeah, and you can build community. Like right now, if they're doing like and there's a lot of really big women and Black-owned brands, big like that are on LinkedIn and have LinkedIn company pages and are working it. Yeah.
Okay, so don't sleep on LinkedIn is the message.
Yeah, these are people that have jobs, like get money.
That's so true.
For businesses. Yes. Right. And then there's like a huge, I don't know if it's just maybe the people I follow, but I'm constantly getting like conversations about race and equity, diversity and inclusion. So there's like so many people like that. And then a lot of Black business, like we were talking about inspiration. So I get inspired because I'm constantly reading on these really positive things about Black and Latina owned businesses that are doing the darn thing. Right. That you probably wouldn't see unless maybe you subscribe to Black Enterprise or something like that. So I get a lot of good information and inspiration, and I share those on the LinkedIn company page about other businesses that are crushing it.
I think some of that too might be a function of the algorithm, because when I go onto LinkedIn, I see none of that. My LinkedIn feed is very different from
Yeah, so sometimes you following, like, right? I think kind of it's your network, but it's also like the things you like. So intentionally doing a keyword search and looking for certain types of people or companies.
Yes, and
Black Enterprise is a good one to follow because they always have like business profiles. And then the more you start liking or commenting on these things, they start switching. Giving it over to you.
Gloria, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with me, for coming, sharing all this valuable information. And thank you for what you're doing also for the community, helping to shine a light on Black-owned women businesses and get their products out there, helping to give them a platform to be seen and to grow as a result.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm so glad that you reached out, and I look forward to I need to subscribe to your podcast. You got to tell me how to subscribe to your podcast so I can
I
listen
will.
to some of these other amazing founders.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. And I thank you, my listener, for listening to this episode of the podcast. I will be back with another one next week.